Paul reminded his assistant firmly that he was only an employee and should speak only when necessary. Jose Daniel hesitated and asked if Paul was sure about what he was about to do. Paul replied that it was the only way to truly know someone's heart. Before stepping out, he instructed Jose Daniel to take his umbrella. He didn't want anyone to see him sweaty. Moments later, Jose Daniel announced that the guests had arrived. Paul straightened himself, nodded, and said he would greet them personally. At the entrance, two elegantly dressed women approached. "Good morning, ladies," Jose Daniel greeted politely. "The owner of the hacienda is expecting us," one of them said confidently. "I am Damaris Rolls." Jose Daniel smiled. "A pleasure to meet you. I'm Jose Daniel." The second woman extended her hand. "Alejandra Jimenez." "The pleasure is mine, Miss Alejandra," he replied warmly. Impatient, Damaris asked if he was going to take them inside or not. He gestured toward the main house. "Please, follow me." Inside, Paul greeted Damaris with formal politeness. "Miss Damaris, what a pleasure to finally meet you." Damaris smiled faintly and asked him to remove his umbrella so she could see his face. "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Paul," she said. Paul complimented her beauty and inquired if the journey had been difficult. "Everyone knows where your hacienda is," she replied with confidence. "Would you like a tour?" he offered. "If you'll be my guide, I'd be delighted," she said with charm. Paul agreed and called for Jose Daniel, who stood nearby. Damaris curiously asked who the young woman beside him was. "She's the maid," Jose Daniel explained. Paul excused her briefly and instructed her to help Jose Daniel with lunch preparations. Alejandra nodded obediently and followed him outside. As they walked through the garden, Alejandra commented quietly, "Your boss seems a little rude." Jose Daniel chuckled. "Only sometimes." She then asked what kind of man he was. He replied that Paul was kind and respectable. "Respectable? I doubt it," she said bluntly. "A man who tries to buy love isn't good." Jose Daniel defended him, saying his boss simply wanted to fall in love. Alejandra disagreed. Placing an advertisement to attract women to his hacienda won't bring real love. He should show who he truly is. Let someone fall for his heart, not his wealth. He smiled. "So, you think he only cares about money?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Anyway, how can I help you?" Jose Daniel suggested showing her around the estate, but she hesitated. "That's a bad idea. Your boss and mine might both get angry." "There's still time," he said persuasively. "You're already here. Don't leave without a quick walk." Alejandra smiled. "You're right. It's a beautiful place." Meanwhile, Paul and Damaris continued their conversation near the stables. Paul proudly spoke about his land. "I'm searching for a woman worthy of this hacienda, and one who can give me a son." Damaris raised a brow. "And what must she do to be worthy?" "She must love me and respect me for life," Paul answered firmly. "Then you've found the perfect woman," she said with confidence. "That remains to be proven," Paul replied. "How?" she asked. "By working here. I don't want a lady who only enjoys comfort. I want a partner who works beside me." Damaris smiled faintly. "So you want a maid, not a lady." Paul returned the smile. "My lady will enjoy everything good, but she must also help me build it." Elsewhere on the property, Jose Daniel showed Alejandra the hacienda's animals. She was fascinated when he introduced her to two ostriches rescued from a circus. "How could anyone keep such animals captive?" she asked. He replied, "There are good and bad people in this world." Alejandra nodded softly. "Then your boss must be a good man. Anyone who loves animals can't be bad." She then asked how Jose Daniel ended up working for Damaris. He smiled mischievously. "I'll tell you a secret, but just between us." She leaned closer. "I'm listening." "Damaris hired me to surprise your boss. She wants to marry him." Alejandra raised an eyebrow. "And what do you think about that?" "If they like each other, maybe it's fate," he replied evasively. She teased him. "You're very inquisitive." "And you're very interesting," he said softly. Before she could respond, he leaned forward and kissed her. She gasped, startled, but then smiled. "That's the sweetest thing I've ever felt." Moments later, Paul found them and scolded Jose Daniel. "Who gave you permission to walk around? I sent you to prepare the food." Jose Daniel lowered his head. "I'm sorry, sir." Alejandra quickly intervened. "It was my idea. Please don't fire him." Paul sighed. "This better not happen again. Go set the table. We'll eat soon." As they walked away, Damaris remarked, "You really need someone to help manage this hacienda?" Being too kind can be dangerous. Paul chuckled. I'll take that into account. At lunch, Paul surprised everyone by inviting both women and his employees to dine together. Damaris frowned at the suggestion, but Paul insisted, wanting everyone to trust one another. Alejandra, feeling uncomfortable, chose to sit with Jose Daniel instead. Later, as they shared a quiet moment, Jose Daniel complimented her again. You're beautiful, even when you eat from a clay bowl. She laughed. That's the first time anyone has told me that. They spoke of their lives, and Alejandra revealed she was a translator. Jose Daniel asked how to say you are handsome in English. She smiled and replied, you are handsome. He continued, and how do you say, do you want to hang out sometime? She giggled as he repeated the phrase awkwardly, and their laughter filled the room. When Alejandra excused herself, Paul pulled Jose Daniel aside. He admitted that Damaris had failed the test. They had learned all they needed to know. But now, Paul confessed he wanted to get to know Alejandra better. Jose Daniel was stunned. The maid? Paul nodded. Yes, this will be the last test. He planned to invite both women back the next day for a day at the pool, still pretending not to be the owner. The next day, Damaris and Alejandra returned. Paul greeted them warmly and invited them to relax by the pool. As they settled in, Jose Daniel offered Alejandra a swimsuit and persuaded her to join him in the jacuzzi. Their playful laughter echoed as they splashed in the water, sharing light-hearted moments and secret glances. But the mood shattered when Damaris suddenly appeared. Furious, she accused Jose Daniel of overstepping his bounds. Alejandra, confused, turned to him for the truth. Paul finally stepped forward and admitted the deception. He was the true owner, not the driver. Alejandra's expression hardened. You lied to me. Paul tried to explain. It wasn't meant to hurt you. Everything I said, everything I felt, it was real. She turned away. This was just another test. And I failed to see it. As Damaris stormed off, Alejandra hesitated. I'm not betraying anyone, she said quietly. But I hope you've both learned something. Jose Daniel watched as Paul stood silently, regret etched on his face. Don't lie to her again, he warned softly. Paul nodded. I promise. The two men watched the women walk away, the afternoon sun setting behind the hacienda, leaving behind the echo of lessons learned about pride, honesty, and the true test of the heart. Thank you for watching. Turn on notification and also subscribe for more.